we're going to do shade gardening because that's what I like. And Shakespeare really wasn't my idea, but I got to do some research and learn new stuff. So,
introduce yourself too.
Oh, hi, I'm Gwen. I'm a master gardener, have been for 20 years. And
I'm Annette Webb. I'm a master gardener for a couple years and master naturalist.
Nobody really knows if he was a gardener for nature and plants and that nature. Oh, there's a reference guide to Shakespeare plants found on Amazon.
Imagine that.
Ha! Or Facebook. You can probably go to Facebook, Twitter, any of those places. No. There is also a book called Shakespeare in the Garden by someone named Mick Hales. He's a landscape photographer. And back in the 1600s, plants had a very significant meaning in life itself. Every time he mentioned an herb or a flower or a tree, it's important to the text of the play that he's writing. And this is my favorite one, Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm in love with Puck. Stanley Tucci, by the way, if you see it on movie. The only one that I really know of Shakespeare's quotes is, "What's in a name? That we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Oh, yeah. And he mentions roses a lot. Thyme, violets. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to plan your garden. Go online, get a list of plants, and I've got a list in here, and I've also got the drawing of a diagram how to plant it and what it looks like. You're going to need a big space, unless you want to shrink it down and use fewer plants. Okay. And then here's the design. Got a list of all of the plants, and I'll tell you the ones that are hardy around here if you want to grow your own garden. Okay, first of all, you need to plan your basic design. You can go by this, you can go online, you can use your imagination, which is what I would do. You're going to have a lot of space and at least 4 hours of sun. If you're, I think that's a little, I would say 6 hours of sun if it were me. Prepare the soil like you would any other garden. Check your soil, check your pH first of all. You can also send soil samples. You can go to the extension office. I don't know if you can do it now, but the extension office has bags, tells you how to use it, and you send it, take it someplace. You used to be able to take it to Cruise, but I don't know where you go anymore, but they could tell you at the extension office, and it will tell you exactly what your soil needs, what kind of nutrients, what your pH is. It'll tell you all of that kind of stuff. You can also use those little test strips like you use in your pool. You can test it that way. They're not quite as accurate, but it'll give you a good sense of what's going on. Test your soil, see if you've got sand or clay. If you've got clay and you take a wet clump and you squeeze it in your hand and it makes a ball, you got clay soil. If you squeeze it in your hand and it falls apart, you're at my house. It's sand. No matter what kind of soil you have to amend it. Unless you have a really great loam, and if you do, congratulations, you're one of very few. No matter what kind of soil you have, you can amend it with compost or earthworm castings. Annette, where did that come from? Annette will tell you about it in a little bit. But if you add compost to your soil, if it's sandy, it's going to make it so that it will hold moisture. Because sand, the water just goes right through. So you have to water more often. If you've got clay, the water sits right at the roots and the plants get moldy and die. So you want that, it will hold a little bit of water, but you want it to also go through so that it doesn't just sit at the roots of the plant. Okay, so you got your pH tested, you know what kind of soil you have, you've got it amended, you're ready to plant. Let's pick some plants here. Okay, you want to research your plants. Figure out what works in our zone. We're in zone 5. They keep trying to change it to 6, and it's not 6. The higher the number, the warmer it is. But like Florida's a 9 or 10, we're a 5. Thank God we don't live in Canada. That's all I got to say. But do a little research and see what kind of plants. If you've got shade in your garden, we're going to talk about that. You can have a shady Shakespeare garden. So just do a little research, find out if your plant, when you buy a plant, it will have a little tag on it. And it will say right on there, zone 5, or hardy to so many degrees. So if you want to plant something that's not hardy, plant it in a pot, sink it in the ground, pull the pot up in the fall. Take it in as a house plant. Let me see here. It says suggest using only natural products in your garden. I would use as many natives as I could, because the native pollinators, the plants and insects are made to go together. I take them off, I put them on. I take them off, I put them on. A native bee is attracted to a native flower. If you plant a hybrid, that insect doesn't see that flower as one he can eat from, or that he can pick pollen. He's getting pollen just because his legs are fuzzy. But plants are made to go to it with an insect, a particular insect. So if you're planting native plants, you're going to get native pollinators. If you plant hybrids, sometimes they either don't see the plant, or it's not nutritious for them, or their little nose can't reach the pollen or reach the nectar. So plant as many natives as you can. There's all kinds of information about natives online. So, and when you buy your plants, this is just an FYI, when you buy your plants, if you go to a big box store, they're supposed to have a label saying that the plants have been treated with a neonicotinoid, which is an insecticide that is derived from the nicotine plant. It will kill insects. It's a systemic that goes up through the roots of the plant, and when that insect eats from that flower, the insect will take that neonicotinoid back to the hive or back to wherever he lives and infect everybody in the hive. So if it's not labeled, ask. Of course, if you're Lowe's, they won't know. But
Don't buy at Lowe's.
Yeah, I worked there for 7 years, so I was in charge of watering. I watered for a living. Is that like the sweetest thing in the world?
Almost as good.
And then my last job, I weeded for a living.
Yay.
I lived the life.
She glows.
It's the shirt. It's the shirt. So buy natives when you can. There are a lot of plants around, and people are really getting more interested in natives, so they're easier to find than they used to be. A lot easier to find. And then there's another native.
Naturally native.
No,
Greenhouse.
Nativar.
Oh,
A cultivar. That's
right, it's a nativar.
Nativar. It's kind of halfway in between a hybrid and a native. So plant natives when you can. All right. Think about other things you're going to put in your garden, like statues or benches. If you're going to make it really pretty, put some place to relax and enjoy it. A place where you can have your glass of wine and your cat, or 2. Or at my house, 5. Well, we had 3, and then one of them that we took in, she wasn't just fat.
Oh.
She is now. Those babies ruined her body.
Oh my God. Oh my
She is just, she looks like a furry toad is what she is.
Oh God.
She's bigger around than she is tall. So make paths.
Yeah.
If you've got enough room, make a path to your little seating place. Oh, deserting us. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's see what else it says here. Select plants that are based on their individual characteristics. There are lots of roses in his writings, a lot of herbs. I did that one already. And I'm not good at this. But do as I say, not as I do. Plant or put identification tags on your plants.
Yeah.
Someone says,
yeah.
wow, I love that rose. What is it? And you go,
Uh-huh.
I don't remember.
I know. My cousin taught me one of the coolest tricks. Ruth, one of our cousins. This is my cousin. And so stick your little tag down along the side and nobody knows it's there but you. So you could go, oh yeah, that's an African violet if you forget. But I was kind of like, oh, I'm going to learn all these.
Oh yeah, I'll remember.
No, you won't. Especially if you start getting into natives, because there's like 15 different milkweeds. So
Right.
if you if you do have a potted plant, just slip it inside or paint on a rock like what I do.
Yeah.
paint I just paint the
Or
nistles.
if you've got old
Yeah.
blinds,
Yes, yeah.
the slats, pull them
Yeah.
out, cut them right on it.
But
Cut
she's
those
really
in.
right, because once you get a lot, you're going to go, oh, does this need watered more? Does it? And that way you can look up the plant name and make sure
Right.
you're
Pull the
attending
little
to it.
tag out. If it's the
Yeah.
one that came with the plant, pull it out and they'll say, don't let it dry out.
Yeah. So
Okay.
slip it in.
So I will pass this around if you guys want to look at this. Oh, I was going to tell you some plant names too. Okay. And then you can look at it later. Anemone is actually a bulb, I believe, called windflower. Oh, that's for pagans. Pagans, death, and mourning.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I put that some way in the back. Apples, apple trees. Lemon balm, okay. Caution about lemon balm. Smells real good.
Is this like the mint story?
Yep.
Okay. Is it
Only this one happened
here last week?
Only that one.
Oh yes, okay. So I go home and I'm like, we have a whole bunch of mint. Now I'm all scared. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, my sister gave me permission to use that story anytime I wanted.
Okay, all right.
Because my sister watched the video in Florida. And I said, ooh, I'm sorry about that story about you. I said, but I thought it was kind of funny that the other parental unit, that's what her ex calls her, is the other parental unit. I said, I really, really want to go by his house and see what his backyard looks like. I said, but don't be mad. She said, use the story anytime you want. I said, good, okay.
Yeah.
So, now this is lemon balm. This is my story. I have a little I don't have much sun, but the sun I have is an area about this wide and about this long. And I thought, I'm going to plant an herb garden, a fragrance garden. I knew nothing about plants at this time. I bought the house 33 years ago. That was my first project. Planted lemon balm. Pulled it up. Well, that was my first mistake. Second mistake was using landscape fabric underneath it. You can't divide the plants without pulling up the landscape fabric. And the weeds go under it. So I finally managed, I got everything up, I got the lemon balm out. By then, it is everywhere at my house. I don't have any back in that garden anymore. It's in the yard. If it could grow in the pool, it probably would. It's everywhere. It smells great. Makes nice tea. It's aggressive. Vigorous. We call it vigorous.
Right.
That's the secret
Who
word.
would win, mint or lemon balm?
Yes, mint or lemon balm.
Who would win?
Honestly, I think lemon balm would win.
Really?
I really do.
Yeah.
Mint pulls up real easily. And mint you can control by putting it in a container.
Okay.
And sinking the container in the ground just so
okay.
the roots can't go anywhere. But lemon, I believe lemon balm would win. Boxwood, columbine, and there is a native columbine. Actually, and to be honest, sometimes the native plants are not as pretty as the hybrids, but they're more necessary and more important to getting things pollinated. Crocus or saffron, but
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, saffron is a kind of crocus. Crown imperial. You guys ever seen a crown imperial? That's a bulb, and it comes up and it's tall, and then these things kind of hang down like this. They say that it will repel moles. I've never tested that.
Oh.
Daisy. There are a lot of native daisies. Fennel, which if you let it go to seed, it will seed. But swallowtail butterflies love fennel. I told this story last week. Went out and I had a bronze fennel. It had moved all over the backyard. It is grown into rocks. It was everywhere. It was just growing everywhere. The plant was about that tall, and I saw this really, really cool caterpillar. I thought, ooh, I wonder what that is. I drove all the way to Mishawaka and got a book. This is before the internet, or before I had it. And I got a book on caterpillars, black swallowtail butterfly.
Wow.
So I drove all the way over and bought a book.
Nice.
But they like
Parsley. Too.
parsley and dill.
Dill.
Yeah, anything like with the fine leaves.
Yeah.
That's what they like.
If you guys go to the Elkhart Environmental Center, there's a quilt garden there that's lined with parsley, and we found quite a few of the swallowtail caterpillars in it recently. It's here in Elkhart.
I used to work at Sodders years ago. You guys remember Sodders, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I worked there for a long time, and we had this guy that would come in, and he was fascinated with butterflies. So whenever we would have, we had parsley plants in the second greenhouse, because we sold plants, and he would come in every day and search for caterpillars. Can I have this one? When it grows up, you can have it. But he would take them home, overwinter them, and then and he loved cecropia. That was called cecropia. Great big ones.
Wow.
They're beautiful.
I bet.
They're beautiful. Lots of Luna moths this year. Have you guys noticed that? Lots and lots of Lunas.
Yeah.
No monarchs, but we got Lunas. Gilliflower, which is also dianthus, which I believe there are native dianthus. Hawthorn is a tree. It's got big, long spikes on it. It deters neighbors. Hyssop. Iris. Ivy, don't do it. Ivy is nice, keep it in a pot. My neighbors have got an entire lot full of ivy. Now, I've got 2 lots, they've got 2 lots. Their ivy's over there, my house is over here.
It's like kudzu. Right?
Yes. And vinca.
Yeah.
Vinca. So,
You guys know kudzu and big, right? It's all over the South.
yeah. This poor guy, he spent like a whole week. He asked me how to get rid of the ivy. I said, he's got a little girl that's special needs. I said, don't use Roundup. Period. I don't care what else you do. I said, dig it up. He spent a week digging that ivy out of his side yard. But he didn't use Roundup. I said, you don't need to take that in the house to your little girl. Okay, what else do we have? So don't use. I don't believe laurel is hardy around here. Bay.
Bay.
I don't think it's hardy around here. I think you could do that in a pot. Lavender. I just got a lavender plant. Madonna lily. I don't know which one that is. Marigold. Lots of marigolds. Myrtle. Be careful of this one too, because it's a creeper. Especially the periwinkle, the one with the little purplish flowers in the spring. That one has traveled to my yard. I've got an area probably this big that I need to pull it up. Yippee. Pansy. Pansies will bloom again in the fall. Did you guys know that? You plant a pansy, not all the time, no guarantees, but a lot of times they will die back in the summer and then come back in the fall and bloom again. That happens a lot. Parsley, that's an aphrodisiac in Greece.
Only in Greece?
Well, what do you know? Primrose, any kind of rose. Oh, that's also an aphrodisiac. Well, yippee. What were you doing, Shakespeare? What were you doing?
Well, he wrote about romance.
Well, I guess you did in that one. I got to watch that movie again. Rosemary is not hardy around here. There again, it's like, what was the other one? Bay, laurel. Grow it in a pot. Take it in the house, use it for cooking. That's what they do with the bay leaf, I think. I don't cook.
Oh, yeah.
I eat.
I cook with bay leaves.
Yeah, but that's what laurel is.
Oh.
Put it in the pot, take it outside, bring it in the house. There you go, cook. Piece of my dog or something. Rosemary. Rue. Rue is cool. Rue is used as a fixative for potpourri.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, didn't know that.
Don't know where that came from in my mind, but I know that's what it is. Sweet violet. I've got violets everywhere. You can't pull those up either, but they're pretty, so I leave them. Woodbine. Oh, honeysuckle. Oh, don't do that one either.
Can't.
No. Now there is a native honeysuckle. There is a native honeysuckle. Japanese honeysuckle. Don't do it. You can't buy it anymore. And wormwood. I love wormwood.
Oh, never heard
I love wormwood. It gets little teeny tiny little white flowers on it. It spreads like crazy. But, you know, sometimes if there's a plant that you really like and it's aggressive, put it someplace you don't care. Yeah. I like gout weed. Oh. What's the other name for it? I don't know. I don't know.
Huh.
And it's green leaves with white edges, and it's very vigorous. I put it in a place beside my house that gets real wet. I filled it in a little bit, put it there, threw some hostas in there. Have at it. Mm-hmm. Go for it. This has got some really pretty pictures of the plants. Well, not pictures, drawings of the plants. So you are more than welcome to look through this. How are we doing on time? I can't see that.
2:24.
Oh, 2:24. Okay. So anyway, you're more than welcome to look through this book. Theme gardens. It's got all kinds. There's a moon garden in here. I thought that one was really cool. But I'm already thinking about what we're going to do next year.
Oh, yay.
You gonna be with me next year?
Of course.
Hot doggy. Okay. I'm easy.
I'm the inner tube that rides her wave. She's the boat. I just sit in the back and have fun.
You know, years ago, it's not inner tubes because I have not met anybody yet that I would trust to drag me behind a boat on an inner tube without trying to knock me off. Even my husband, not happening.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know how to swim. I do now. I could get myself out of the pool if I had to. You know, if a drunk threw me in or something. I'd come out mad, but I could probably get myself out. I water skied. I didn't swim, but I water skied.
Aww.
But I was using someone else's skis, and she was like 5'7".
Wow. Oh, you're not.
I'm not. Inside, I'm 6'2". Outside, 4'10" on a good day. I did so many nosedives, it just wasn't even funny. So I went out and bought my own skis.
Good.
And my own life jacket.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Now I don't know anybody with a boat. Except the boat that I crashed into the deck, and that's past history. You want to do your worm stuff?
It's up to you. Do you want to talk about
do your worm
shade,
stuff, and then we'll do shade.
Well, she just brought me along. I don't know anything about Shakespeare, or I don't know a whole lot about shade, but I can tell you how to grow your plants better and healthier so that if you do have these gardens, they're going to prosper. And so she had talked about amending the soil. And we all know that's a great thing. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in the country and you smelled fresh country air, right? When they put the manure out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was really fresh. Well, what they're finding is you need to break it down even more. It's going to make it more healthier. So I come across a product, I don't even know how long ago, but I started using this stuff called worm castings. Are you guys familiar? Some heard of it, right? It's, yeah, a little bit.
Mama.
And it's actually the poop of a worm. So it is the byproduct of a worm. There's no odor to it. It's the only stuff that comes from a species that doesn't have odor. In fact, it smells like the earth. It's like oh, that was my nose.
You're not supposed to breathe in quite that deep.
Anyway, so it's the only stuff that doesn't have an odor, and it's an amazing product. You can use it with all plants will benefit It's super easy. So like her mint plants, not mint, lemon balm that she was talking about, if you want to use it in pots, you'll use, this because it's really easy, you'll use 1/3 of the worm castings and 2/3 of your potting mix.
Do you mix it up?
You mix it up,
Okay.
Yep, and just mix it up. I usually mix up a whole batch if I'm doing a whole bunch more potting. Worm castings are amazing. They are full of microbes, and we're all really, really familiar with microbes right now because of viruses, right? Well, that's just one part of that whole theme. So if I went out in this soil right here and I took 1 little teaspoon, which I happen to have right here, I would have between 1 million and 1 billion bacteria. That's just bacteria, you guys. Then you have your protozoa, you have your nematodes, you have your, I didn't practice that word, mycorrhizae, your fungus, and they're all in this huge community underneath the ground, and they're eating each other. And when they do, they release plant readily available food in microscopic amounts. So they feed your plant without fertilizer. So if you have, not against fertilizer, we need to fertilize at some point. This is one way of doing it, but fertilizer will feed a plant all its nutrients at one time. So if I said, okay, Gwen, here's your breakfast, lunch, dinner, you eat it all right now. Physically, she couldn't do it. She could eat part of those.
I'd give it a good try.
But we all would, right? But physically, she couldn't take it all in at one time. So what happens is the rest of that fertilizer just washes off. And if it's not a good type of fertilizer, a synthetic form, it kills more microbes and it pollutes watersheds. And you get to buy more because you're addicted, because your plant's going to go, oh, I'm hungry again. You know, it's like having that Snickers bar for lunch when you really should have had a lettuce or some kind of salad with a lot of other plants in it, right? So when the worm castings, the way it makes it so work is it's not completely broken down. So, okay. I usually have a slideshow, and I'm going to get lost on my stories if I don't have my
Somebody asked me
slideshow.
if we were going to use PowerPoint.
PowerPoint, right. And I do have one. Oh, I'm going to wing it. Okay. Because when I start teaching about worm castings, one of the things that came to me is I had this gentleman he had a business around here. His name was Steve Cruz, and he kept teaching me about these worm castings. And he said, Annette, think of it this way. Fertilizer feeds plants, and your worm castings feed the soil. And then that's what started that whole trip when I started learning all those microbes, and I started thinking about the woods. I'm like, oh, yeah, everything falls down, rots down, and feeds those plants naturally. So that's kind of how I got started in using it. I am so proud to announce that my husband had a business locally for 6 years, and we have now decided to pass it on, and the new owner of our worm farm is here. I'll introduce her. Her name is Carrie Fetter, and she's shy, I'm sure. But you guys, she's a beautiful person inside and out, and I think she's going to take our business and do wonderful with it. I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's been an amazing journey, and I hope to keep teaching like this.
Do you have visitation?
I know, and I went all over the place with it. We harvested, so I do have fresh worm castings for you guys, and I understand this time is with all the virus that are being bullies out there. I will put it in the back. I brought baggies, so you guys are welcome. Take a grand handful and take it and try it. We do sell it locally. These are our bags. We sell it around at Wellfield, but everybody's sold out. Just let you know, we sold out this year because we didn't anticipate people gardening as much as they did, and our worms are limited to how much they poop. They only produce so much, and so it's the bottom line. So they use it here at Ruthmere. They used it in their quilt garden here. Wellfield uses it because they're on the water wells of Elkhart City, so they can't pollute your water the city's drinking. So they use worm castings because it's so naturally. So, and I'm grateful for all those people to do it. I brought samples. I used to do this a lot, but this is some samples. This is an African violet someone gave me one leaf off of, and these are the exact same age. The only difference is I use worm castings in this soil. I did nothing here. And you'll see the same thing with these two potted plants. Obviously no worm castings, and this one has worm castings. So you're going to see it has more green. Actually, if you could feel, the soil actually will hold water. Worm castings will hold 10 times their weight in water. So if you have potted plants, it's awesome because they don't dry out as fast too.
Especially hanging baskets, I would imagine.
Baskets, you know, things like that. So luckily, I'm just here. Like I said, I'm riding her weight. I love learning from her, but she lets me come in and tell you a little spiel because it's really an amazing product. It's changed my life. I know it's going to change Carrie. She's already been a customer, but I bought the company from somebody that started it too, that wanted to be organic. And then she got injured and was going to shut it down, and so I bought the worms and the business, and we've had it for 6 years, and now we have a wonderful wildflowers family that will grow with it. So thank you for having me. But I do have some samples. If you have questions, I'm a local girl. I'm from Goshen, north of Goshen. So I have some cards. You can email me, text me. This is funny that we have the new owners here. When we named the company, we're like, oh, Bob, my husband's name's Bob. Bob's Worms, our last name's Webb's Worms. That's too confusing. So we came up with Raw Sustainable Living. My husband's name's Robert, my name's Annette, and our last name's Webb. So that's how we came up with that little thing there.
Are you going to keep the same name?
We are.
Good.
Yeah,
All right.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. But,
well, I'm actually thankful for the virus. It really hasn't changed my life a whole lot. I retired in April. My mom had a stroke a year ago, so I spend a lot of time with her. So basically, I don't leave the house unless I'm going to Mom's house or coming to Ruthmere. And so but the one good thing that's come out of this is that, well, more than one thing. People are getting to know each other again. Mm-hmm. They know their families. They're eating meals together. They're interacting with each other instead of everybody sitting around looking at their phone or running off to football practice or whatever. But look at all the people that are gardening.
Oh my gosh.
Is that just like amazing?
Oh, I had so many people contact me, like twice, 2-3 times a week, random people. It was so exciting. So you're right. So yeah, it's a good thing.
People are learning how to get back in touch with nature.
And it's also getting the word out there about virus and bacteria. I was telling them earlier, I went to hear this guy talk, and there was a research done that said me hanging onto this worm castings is putting so many good bacteria on my skin. It's actually healthier than washing your hands with antibacterial soap because you just knocked out that line of defense. Because remember when I told you it's a food soil web, it's a picture, it's hard to see. But when you feed the soil, you're going to feed a whole network of things. And when you interrupt it by killing all the bacteria, it's out of whack. It's kind of like rototilling. If you go in and you come in and we decide we're going to rototill this up and put it in a garden, it's literally like an earthquake, a tornado, and a hurricane hitting the town of Elkhart. It knocks out everything, so nothing can communicate. So what happens, it takes Elkhart a really long time to get their electricity and put around those plants. It's going to help hold that moisture in, so I do that a lot. Yeah.
And as the grass decomposes,
it's going to feed it too. Plus, it's going to kill some of the weeds because it's darker. The EC, if it's somewhere you're not eating, I can recommend you to go there. The EC behind there is free mulch, and it's from the city. You don't know what you're going to get. It could be poison ivy, it could be anything, but it's free, and so we use that around our natives. It's a bark that you can use. An amazing source I just discovered recently in Goshen is Goshen Environmental Center off of County Road 19. $21 for a yard of amazing compost. I mean, I was like so excited because it's really, really important that you get it locally. There's indigenous, which means their microbes are from this area. When you buy a bag of compost from California, our microbes are going, these are strangers. We don't know what these are. They'll break it down, but it'll probably take a while. Where if you can get compost or make your own even better, do that. But that's another way to feed your soil too.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat myself up small weeds.
No.
If they're as tall as me, fine. I have one that it's what's it called? One that gets the purple berries on it. I don't know what it is, but Ernie said, "What is that plant? It's as tall as the house, and the trunk is this big around." I said, "The birds like the berries."
I know.
That's where it came from.
Well, and
I am going to cut that one.
I was walking with Carrie in her yard, and you can eat this one, you can eat this one. Planting is just amazing.
Eat
plant.
milkweed.
Milkweed. I know.
I just learned that. Salad.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about shade gardening.
Yeah.
I I moved in my house 33 years ago in March, and 2 great big white pines out front, this big around. They got wiped out by an ice storm. Those pines are very soft. And I was standing in the dining room and I heard the branches go. I started crying and there was nothing I could do about it. So, called some guy, cut the trees down, so everything I had planted in the front to shade. Whoops. It's all sun now. You guys are just gonna have to figure this out because I don't have time to move you, I'm working. So then we had a maple tree and a maple tree. Well, when we got married, we planted a purple beech. I asked Ted Sauter, I said, if you were gonna plant a tree that would live forever, what would you plant? He said, a purple beech. All right, bought a purple beech from Sauter's. Planted in it's about half again as tall as my house. So everything that was sun here is now shade. Whoops again. So I have one place that's all shade, full shade. The neighbor said, let's cut those trees down. No, I don't have it fixed yet. So I'm gonna talk to the guy and say, put your chainsaw away for just a little while until I can see these things moved a little bit. So shade gardening is kind of my life because it's pretty much all shade except that little space in the back. I have 2 rose bushes and some really nice weeds. But 2 rose bushes, hot cocoa, and a little pink fairy rose that actually came from Kroger's probably 15 years ago. And we had a really bad boss. And he felt bad for all of us. It was the husband of one of the girls I worked with. He felt really bad, that we had this really horrible boss. So he bought us each a little rose bush, out of the floral department at Kroger's. I put mine in the ground. It's still going. I lost my distant drums, but I'm going to get another one. That's the only sun I have now. Except in the front. We already got that done. Kind of. The hostas are learning to live with it. A little crispy, but they'll get over it. So when you're gardening in the shade, you do the same thing you did before. You test your pH to find out. Most plants like 6.5 to 7. There are some exceptions, but most of the time 6.5 to 7 pH. Check your soil, see what kind you got, clay, sand, loam, lucky. And an author friend of mine, his name is Felder Rushing. I was going to bring you a book to read and I forgot it, but I'll get you one to read. But you have to get back to the song. I just love Felder. He said, if you don't have a hosta plant and a daylily, you don't have any friends. They're easy to divide. Daylilies don't do real well in shade. They'll grow, but they're not going to bloom. Hostas, there are so many, there are thousands of kinds of hostas. I've got friends that go to Hosta College every year. Hosta College. They have an entire garden that's as big from that post back, this big, with just hostas. Got a shade cover over it. Hosta but there are teeny tiny little hostas. There are some with leaves this big. I planted one called French Fry. I planted one called Humpback Whale. I've got 2 little mouse ears, 2 blue mouse ears. There was a new one last year. It's called Designer Jeans. And the leaves are bright yellow, bright yellow, and the stems are kind of a reddish color. And then there's one called White Lightning that when it first comes up in the spring, it's white, totally white. Yeah. As the year goes on, it turns green, but it comes up and it's stark white, looks like a ghost. So there are hundreds of plants that you can plant in the shade. A stilby. That's the one that's got a big plume on the top, real feathery looking leaves. Cardinal.
Cardinals and native.
Cardinals and
Flower.
native. Of course, now I can't
Prairie
think.
drop seaweed is a native.
Prairie drop seed. There are lots of grasses that are naturals too, but there's only one that likes the shade of sorts. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. Ruthmere. There is a plumeria. Well, not plumeria. Nuts. Oh, that was last week's talk. Pollinators. Yes, thank you. It's in the Bible. Forgot that page. But figure out first of all what kind of shade you've got. So you've got your pH. You know what kind of soil you have. What kind of shade do you have? Do you have part shade? Is it like sunny in the morning and then get shade? Is it shady all the time? And you have to think about the winter too. When your plants are first coming up in the spring, there are no leaves on those trees. So it's going to be more sunny in that area. But as the leaves grow, then it's going to get shadier again. So you have to think about that too. What else do I have in store? Lots and lots of pastas. I've got, what the heck is wrong with my brain? It's gone out the window. Ivy, no, don't do that. Lots of ferns. All of my ferns made it this year. Even with that brutal cold we had, all my ferns came back up. I've got a couple of Japanese painted ferns, which are gorgeous. The leaves the fronds are kind of a grayish color, and then it's got a little bit of a burnt red kind in it. That's very pretty. I've got one called Lady Dre. That was pretty a little bit. I need to give it a little bit of word. There's another one. It's called Japanese something. The leaves almost look like ivy. That was very pretty too. But ferns love shade. Snowdrops, but my snowdrops grow in the sun. What about heuchera? Coral bells. Heuchera's coral bells. There's one called obsidian, which is black. There's another one called glitter, which is kind of a silver color. I want to plant those two together. I think that would be really pretty. There are some that are named after alcoholic drinks. There's Georgia peach. That's a drink. Well, yeah, you put the peaches in your yeah, rain is completely gone. Yeah, it was storm last night. I ate everywhere last night. I don't know what that was.
I'm going to set this here. You guys will never. We're over.
We're running out of time.
Yeah, I think we're going to go. You can take a bag if you want, to do that. I thank you guys. I'm like Gwen. When you guys took the time to come here today, that means so much.
Yes, it does.
I mean, I feel like I hit the lottery because there's a lot of things you can be doing out there, and especially a lot of people who don't want to be around other people. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to come, and we can answer questions if you guys want.
I've got books up here, so you want to look through things.
Yeah.
You want to see what a plant looks like? I've got a couple ID books here.
Yeah.
You want to
I
read
was
that Solar Night
wondering,
Stream?
is there going to be a garden tour this year?
No garden tour, no fair,
Well, I knew
pretty much no nothing. No blueberry festival. Sorry about the ice
We
cream.
were lucky the expo got done right before.
Yeah. No nothing. No master gardener classes. I doubt there's going to be a master naturals class.
It's on hold. That's a program we both highly recommend. It's through the Elkhart County Soil and Water Conservation Office, and it's like a 8-week class where you meet once a week, and you learn. You'll meet at a different park, and you'll learn about the wetlands, and then you'll learn about the prairie grasses, and you'll learn about the trees, and it's just we highly recommend it.
I redid the class last fall, I believe, and it was winter. It was snowing down. We have got, in our area, we have got the largest watershed in the world. California was killed to get our water.
Oh, I bet. Oh, yeah.
Because of Lake Michigan, all of the
Oh.
lakes.
Is Joy in there?
Oh,
We've got the
absolutely.
largest shed in the world.
Okay, there's somebody at the door.
That's
So
that's another interesting quick fact is when you're driving on the bypass.
it looks to me like she answered them.
If you guys know, the other side of it, all that water goes to the Mississippi. All our water here goes into Lake Michigan. So, isn't that wild? So we're all part of what's called, like she said, a watershed. And we're so fortunate. We'll luckily never run out of water here, but
Well,
our
we have to
people-
watch out for those California people.
They're
They
gonna
may
be
be
wild.
coming to visit.
They're
I
gonna be
was gonna say,
wild.
I used to live on St. Joe. That may not be true. People treat it like a garbage can.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
And it was sickening
It's
to
so-
see what people dumped in the river.
But this is a little fact. It would show you how far we come. I never say his name right. Dara Deegan.
Dara, yeah.
He's our biologist, and I went to hear him speak about a year ago, and he said he did some research. So if you're testing the water, if it's dead, it has less than 5 parts per million of oxygen. Okay, so 5 parts per million under water's dead. That river right there, I want to say it was around the turn of the century, 1900s, maybe the 1920s. It was 3 parts per million. It was completely dead. No living organism could live in that river. And he's our biologist, and he eats out of it weekly. So it's getting better on parts. He knows where the parts are, but you're
I
right.
would say that's
go
true
on,
of like
you
Gary,
won't.
Indiana, the water around there,
Right.
because of manufacturing, and they
It's everywhere.
then clean up their acts.
Here's the story. I told you about those grass. I was getting it from this older farmer lady's house because I know the lawn has never been treated, you guys. The neighbor across the street just told us he has stage 4 liver cancer, okay? About 4 months ago. I look up, I see him riding a lawnmower, spraying the grass. I text the other neighbor and I go, I won't be needing those grass clippings anymore. And he goes, I didn't think you did. I said, no. So what do? Now they scoop it all up and they put it on the creek bank. So there's a big massive pile of, it's stuff like that. We have to start thinking, people. I'm not,
Look where I was, it went all downhill.
Exactly, yeah.
So they fertilized their yards,
Right.
and that just, I'm on sand,
right.
Oh, yeah.
and it runs
Welcome to
right
my
out
dune.
in the
Yeah.
river.
I
So
know.
now, they're getting all this growth,
Yeah.
and it clogs up
Oh,
the
yeah.
flow,
Right.
then it starts to stink,
It kills.
and nobody does anything about it. They just,
Ignore it, it goes away.
The ecosystem is
well,
absolutely-
they threw in more chemicals to kill the weeds.
Of course they did. That's what they do.
I don't live there anymore. I don't have to deal with it.
Right, but it's really sad that they
Yeah.
I know. I've heard of rivers and streams out west that are still sterile because they treated it to get rid of some kind of something. So we don't want to hold you guys too much longer. If you have questions, please come up or email, talk to us. But thank you for asking questions because I love that part of it. Or do you have any more you want
No,
to say?
no.
They're good.
I'm good. I'm sorry my brain quit.
No, you didn't. No.